All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS live video. Got the Week 15 Sunday live stream here for you. This one is one where I think it's pretty basic. There's not too much injury news that has changed the slate thus far, which for one is finally great. It's kind of relieving. Now, Infamous does already have a question in there about Michael Thomas on the IR, which does bring up kind of some value there. And as well, it does bring Alvin Kamara kind of into the player pool as well. I think with Michael Thomas out, we're going to see a little bit more, obviously, targets to Alvin Kamara, especially with Drew Brees in there. You're looking at the receivers that are active. It's going to be Traquan Smith and Emmanuel Sanders. For me personally, I'd much rather just go with someone like Traquan Smith, who at his price point, and I'll pull that up real quick. Oh, here. So yeah, Smith here, I think is like 3.2, just very cheap. You can really make a lot of stuff work. You look at the targets there, 6 each of the last 2 weeks, and we saw him kind of be relevant when Michael Thomas was out earlier. I don't love the play, but for 3.2, it does make a lot of sense. The last time Michael Thomas was out and he was kind of the receiver number 2, he was up there in that 4K, 5K price point range. So obviously this is a huge discount. That is something that I don't mind there. And then once again, just hitting on it, Alvin Kamara, I do like a decent amount. For me, the slate's going to come down to, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, JT, then figuring out where you want to go. I mean, if you want to like differentiate, go with Leonard Fournette a little bit, you can do that. Cam Akers, you can do that a little bit as well. But for me, I'm going to be kind of deciding between which two of Henry, Kamara, and JT I want the most of, and kind of figuring out the rest of the slate from there, because I think that's going to be the approach that you really want to go with kind of the most. And then the only other addition really that I've made since the last video is Tyler Conklin here. I kind of mentioned it on the 9-to-5 write-up that I really do like Irv Smith, and I think he's going to be a solid play today. He's a big play guy. He should be in the passing game a little bit more, but Tyler Conklin actually came in and played a ton of snaps with Kyle Rudolph out. He kind of just took over for Kyle Rudolph's role, which was kind of surprising. And with that, he saw 5 targets and was able to score 9 DK points. For someone that's min price at the tight end spot, that's not going to go 0. He's going to get some points. Maybe we get lucky with a touchdown as well. Now, that makes a lot of sense to me at 2.5. So it frees up a lot of value. It's not going to be a 0. It just makes a lot of sense. Jerry, he's a Vikings fan. He's liking the call, which is always a good sign. So especially with the Bears, one of the surprising things I saw with the last time the Vikings played the Bears is that they really try to force feed Dalvin Cook in there. And if they go with that game plan once again, that's going to mean Tyler Conklin's in a little bit more than Irv Smith. So that's kind of why I'm favoring that. But we'll get started here. We'll go through game by game like we always do. We'll start off with Tampa Bay versus the Atlanta Falcons. All right, so here's very interesting. Just in general, we got Tom Brady and Matt Ryan. They're both actually in great spots, especially as of recently. Cook or Irv Smith at tight end? Definitely Irv Smith for me there, Andre. I don't know. I like Jared Cook. I get the call there. But for me, I'm going to go with Irv Smith. I think he has a little bit more upside. I'd rather go Cole Kmet, just a little bit cheaper than both of those guys, though. I'm starting to favor that approach a lot more today. As the kind of week has went on, I've started to favor that a little bit more. So that's kind of going to be the approach I'm looking at there. But yeah, look, going into the quarterbacks here, you got Tom Brady, Matt Ryan. They're both actually in really great spots, which to me, is pretty interesting. I don't know what we can really take from these two. They're both in good spots, but they're both a little bit too inconsistent for us to really trust them in general. I'll actually pull up the quarterback projections here. You look at Matt Ryan, he should actually be able to go off in this one. He's just probably not going to, which is the biggest worry with him. Tom Brady, he's been pretty consistent, so I don't mind Tom Brady in general, but I'll pull up Matt Ryan here. So you look at it, the Bucs have been worse defensively as of recently, by a pretty good amount. And just looking at the raw projections, Tom Brady should be able to go off against the Falcons. Now, the Falcons have been better defensively recently than they have been throughout the whole season, or the Buccaneers have been significantly worse recently as they were throughout the whole season. So, at 5.4, it really wouldn't shock me if someone like Matt Ryan actually does go off and have a pretty solid game today. It's just not something that I really want to go out and trust that much. Especially with Julio Jones out. He's just weird that he's not a factor, and that just kind of has been happening. But we'll move on and we'll go into the running backs for this game. So running back wise, yeah, Leonard Fournette, everyone kind of knows he's going to be the chalk, as he should be. It does make a ton of sense to play him. The weird thing is that they did start to favor LaShawn McCoy a little bit more for passing game usage. Fournette had kind of struggled a little bit, had a couple of bad drops, was struggling pass blocking a little bit. Really, to me, it was just more or less, why are we keeping this guy active when we have Ronald Jones, who's playing well? Obviously, Ronald Jones isn't active, so Fournette at 4.5 does make a ton of sense. I could see someone like Keyshawn Vaughn maybe getting 10 carries and having some explosive carries in there, which obviously maybe that leads to a hot hand approach with Vaughn over Fournette, but I just don't think that's likely. It could happen, just not likely. Then receiver-wise, I mean, these guys are all in good spots. Everyone in this game is in a good spot. You got Calvin Ridley just in a huge spot. He should be able to go off. Look at the targets recently, 9, 9, 10, 12. Been a stud. DK-wise as well. He makes a ton of sense in this matchup. Then you look at Mike Evans, a little bit inconsistent, but obviously he can go off. He was doing pretty well prior to last week's dud against Minnesota. And then obviously Chris Godwin, same thing. He was more of a target guy, kind of the leading target guy that I would want to favor, but I'd probably go back to the well with him. But you got Antonio Brown, who I've already touched on this a decent amount. He has been seeing a decreased amount of snaps recently, but the targets have been there for him. 6.8 on average since he's joined the Bucs at 5.4. That does make a ton of sense, especially if somehow the Falcons get up. That's going to favor Antonio Brown a little bit more. I wouldn't go crazy with stacking like Fournette. Oh, Fournette with all the pass catchers. So, that's a worry there. And then Russell Gage, I do like a ton. For me at this price point, I don't want to say the lock word, but with Julio Jones still out, it does make a ton of sense. 12, 5, 8, and 7 targets. That is crazy to me. Why is he priced this low? This is like in PGA when you get a guy that's checking all the boxes, that's just like $1,000 too cheap. I feel like I can't avoid Russell Gage on this slate, which worries me a little bit that I'm thinking that way, but it's true. It's just he's at a great price point, so that's the worry there. We'll move on to the next game. The next game is pretty interesting as well. Seattle versus Washington. Let me get a drink break, though. All right, so Seattle versus Washington. Now, I don't really think we can play anyone in this game. You got Dwayne Haskins at almost min price for quarterbacks. And, if you just look at a season average here, just sure, if you want to lock in like 15 DK points, which he might get at this price point, I get it. It's the best matchup for anyone really on the whole year has always been the Seattle defense. But, man, he's looked rough. And for me, I'd much rather kind of play the Seattle defense at 3.1 with Dwayne Haskins starting. That's kind of my approach. Infamous as one, Scotty Miller getting a ran touchdown last week was annoying. Yeah, it was. It was a great throw, great catch, though. So kudos to them. I mean, that was a well-executed play. But, yeah, that was very annoying in general. The receivers in this one, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, don't have to go out of our way to play them. I mean, if you guys are someone who had been playing like DK Metcalf the whole year, sure. I don't mind the approach of going back to the well with him, but I don't want to play him against the Washington football team. They've just been a good team. Terry McLaurin should be able to go off. Against the Seattle Seahawks, receivers have just been dominating. It's been like 10 plus more points to their average. So, Terry McLaurin's projection is going to be looking like 25 DK points instead of 15 DK points. And to me, that's very intriguing. The targets should be there, but 6.6 is a lot to pay for him. One interesting play to me is Cam Sims here. We saw him have a good week randomly against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's playing over 90% of the receiver snaps, and I get it. Logan Thomas has been kind of dominating targets, and then Terry has been as well. J.D. McKissick is getting a lot of checkdowns, but now it's Haskins, so maybe he spreads the ball a little bit more. Maybe, but for a guy at 3.3 in one of the best matchups on the slate, for a guy that's going to play 90% of the receiver snaps, the receiver number 2, that is somewhat intriguing to me. And even if the game's a blowout, I still expect Cam Sims to be getting that work. So to me, it's a very interesting GPP flyer there. I will be throwing him in there about 10% of my builds because it does make sense. All right, moving on to Chicago versus Minnesota. Mitchell Trubisky, what do we think about him? He played well against Houston. There's some sort of narrative there. Obviously, Houston has really struggled defensively. not a very good team, but it was nice to see him running the ball more. That opened up the offense. And if they go back to that where he gets right around 5 rushing attempts, he's not going to be horrible. Now, Minnesota's defense has been playing better recently, pretty much the second half of the season. Their young guys have started to get the message. They're just figuring it out. The chemistry is starting to be there. So, Minnesota's not that easy defense that we were attacking earlier on in the year. If you wanted to play like Minnesota defense, you could 2.8. I've been ending up on a lot of lineups there. I don't mind it. They haven't been bad recently. Tampa Bay, sure, they gave up 26 points and, didn't score any points, but they only gave up 26 points. I mean, that's not horrible. Really, other than that, they've only had one game that they went negative in. So, sneaky defensive play there, especially with Mitchell Trubisky, who does struggle. Yes, he played well against Houston, but you had the Deshaun Watson draft pick narrative as well there. So, I don't know how much we can factor that in. David Montgomery, I don't think we can go back to the well with this week. Obviously, really stellar the last 3 weeks. I'm out this week on him, which, good thing that he had those 3 solid weeks in a row for us, but, I'm cutting ties with him this week. Dalvin Cook is kind of an interesting play to me, just in general. I already mentioned it in that first game against the Chicago Bears. He did have 30 carries. I mean, if you can lock in someone that's getting 30 carries, that's insane. Now, he did have only 15 DK points, but still, he was 4 yards away from the 100-yard bonus. He didn't have a touchdown as well. You give him one of those two things or both of them, 9K is too cheap for him. So that is kind of where I'm struggling with. And it is very easy to fit both Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook into our builds today. And that's kind of where I'm struggling with, because if you just go studs and duds and just lock in, 15 points from Dalvin Cook at a floor, and then like 20 from Derrick Henry, obviously you're sitting pretty good there. So that is kind of going to be like the make or break point for me. I see on the slate, it's like, yes, Evan Kamara, JT, much better calls there, but sometimes you just got to make it simple. And that's kind of what I'm worried about on today's slate, is if I just kind of overthink it and don't play Dalvin Cook there. Allen Robinson will say, wow, just been great. Even with poor quarterback play, the targets continue to be there for him. If he gets a little bit better of a quarterback upgrade, this guy is going to be elite next year and season long. Just a solid play, I think. So Justin Jefferson, man, I don't think so. I don't think I'm playing any of the Vikings receivers here today. Chicago's Bears defense is good. I kind of respect their defense, and you already know what I'm going with for this game. I'm going to be attacking with the tight ends. A little bit of Irv Smith Jr. Still think he's a quality play. Still think he has that upside to really go off and have a huge day. But I kind of like the floor of Tyler Conklin here. Already mentioned him. 5 targets, was able to get 40 yards and 9 DK points. Still, once again, I just like the floor there. Snap-wise, he should be seeing a majority of the snaps like you saw last week. I don't want to say he should be, but I expect that to happen once again, especially against the Bears where you need more of a blocking tight end. And then Cole Kmet. I mean, this is just really cheap to me. Jimmy Graham's a little bit banged up as well. Cole Kmet saw 7 targets, and throughout the last month or so, the news was coming out that the Bears want to get him more involved. He was seeing it around 70% of the snaps over the last month, and then finally against Detroit and against Houston, maybe because of the softer matchups, he finally started getting involved more. So, I don't mind Cole Kmet today going against the Vikings. And let me see what Jimmy Graham did against the Vikings when they played. Nothing. Okay. That's interesting that tight end didn't do well for the Bears, because I think that teams should be attacking them via the tight end. So that's a little bit interesting to me. We'll move on into the next game here. Houston versus Indy. This is a pretty good one. I've already kind of teased this one a little bit. So Deshaun Watson, I don't think we can pay up for him. The Colts do have a solid defense overall. Not going to be paying up for them. But Phillip Rivers is an intriguing play to me this week. So I'll pull him up here on the 9 to 5 page real quick. And the thing that's interesting to me about it is that Houston, they've just been an easy matchup really this whole year. He doesn't get that huge of like a DK point projected upgrade there, but at 5.9, it's very intriguing. DK point per dollar, he's projected to see 3.6, which is huge. That's one of the best on the slate for really any position. So overall, He's projected to get right around 18 DK points, which I think is more or less his floor. What sucks with him is that JT has been spectacular, and I don't think we can play Rivers and JT in the same build. And also the fact that, Jacoby Brissett has been coming in and getting those 1 yard goal line carries. So that's why he's not a lock or anything like that. But I think Phillip Rivers is just a solid play today. He does make a lot of sense for you guys to kind of open up some of your builds. The only question is we got Jalen Hurts that's really cheap, and then we got Gardner Minshew, who I'm going to touch on in a second here. Love Gardner Minshew as well. So for me, I'm kind of struggling to get up to Phillip Rivers in one of the matchups that we've been attacking this whole year, which to me does seem like a mistake, but you got to factor in price point, you got to factor in upside, and that's why I'm starting to knock Rivers a little bit, where at the start of the week, I was like, all right, this is going to be my go-to play. Still, I like the safety with him. I do think he's going to be a solid play. Where you guys want to go from there, that's up to you. But yeah, we'll get back into this game here. I'll actually pull up the running backs real quick. So give this a second to load. Oh, and at this video, I do think I will be doing a little lineup optimization here with the lineup builder. We'll be coming out with a video of kind of explaining that as well. So Jonathan Taylor will pull up his stats down here. So Jonathan Taylor, huge, 8.5. That's the most on the slate. So running backs are seeing 8 more points to their DK average against the Texans. I mean, you've just been able to gouge them. And then that gives JT, he's kind of got a solid projection just because of his season-long average. But overall, I would say he's looking more like he's going to get 20 DK points, which to me, at that price point, I'm with it. That works for me. Hard to fit Henry, Kamara, and JT. I'll show you how you can do that here actually right now. Might as well. Challenge accepted. So let's do that. So just real quick, because you brought it up, I want to do it. So JT, Henry, Kamara. So for that, you're going to have to go with Conklin. Once again, that opens up a ton of salary there. For me, I'm just going to punt defense. If this is something I'm going with, the Jets, I don't mind. Baltimore or the Jags, I don't mind as well. I don't think either of these defenses are going to go negative. The first time the Jets went negative was last week against the Seahawks. Obviously, the Seahawks are an incredible offense. So are the Rams, but I kind of expect them to really run the ball a ton, which will eat the clock. So I don't see them going negative. So sure, put the Jets in there. Whichever quarterback you want to go with. Since we just brought up Phillip Rivers, I'll put him in there. Brandon Ayuk is pretty much a lock for me. And then, you got Gage down here, who I really like as well. And then, set him pretty there. You can really go with whoever you want from there. There's decent plays. Willie Snead's down there. Traquan Smith, Emmanuel Sanders. Those are all fine plays. Peyton Barber's right there as well. Sony Michel, I think he's going to be a decent play as well. So you can really make it work. You can. If you want to go really receiver value, you can go Traquan Smith and then pay up for a defense. So it is actually pretty easy to make that work. Just look at this. So Phillip Rivers, 15 or so DK points. Jonathan Taylor, 15. Henry, dang, my voice. Water break. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But yeah, Derrick Henry, 15 to 25 DK points. You're sitting pretty. Brandon Ayuk, he's been on pace for 20 DK points over the last 4 starts. Not sure exactly we can project him for that, but 15 from him, 12 from Gage, Conklin, 5. I think that's fair. And then 20 from Kamara. You're sitting pretty with that. If you get a little bit lucky, I guess, with Jets D and they get 5 points, you're sitting pretty. So I think it is pretty easy to make it work. The only thing that would suck is if Jonathan Taylor gets pulled for some dumb reason, like we've seen a little bit throughout the season. That would be the only worry there. I'll be against the rest of the plays for this game. Brandon Cooks is back. He is finally priced up enough. I know we were locking this dude in for about the past month with Will Fuller out. The targets have been there, and I think the targets will continue to be there for him, but he's kind of priced up enough now where his floor that he got with those targets is a little bit priced out. He's priced out of our player pool now. He still could score a touchdown and play well, though. T.Y. Hilton, wow. This kind of came out of nowhere, and I think it's kind of because I mentioned this in the previous videos that Michael Pittman Jr. has been struggling recently, which has kind of force-fed Hilton some targets, and he's been able to produce. So, in this soft matchup, once again, if you're trying to do some stacks, Phillip Rivers, T.Y. Hilton does make a decent amount of sense. And you could even do a little bit of Jonathan Taylor, I think. He gets involved in the passing game enough where it can work. I mean, we saw that a lot of the times with Phillip Rivers playing for the Chargers, so that does make sense to me. Going receiver wise, Kiki Cutie, I'm fine with it. Last time out against the Colts, he did have a huge week. Operating as a receiver number 2 now. I actually like him a little bit more than I did kind of that week. Obviously, he's really priced up now. Chad Henson, I'm not sure how much he's going to be involved just with Cook's back. Michael Pittman Jr., sure, fine GPP flyer, but he has struggled. He really has. So I don't really exactly trust that as well. And then moving on, Detroit versus Tennessee. So Ryan Tannehill, I really like. You guys kind of already know this, and I'll pull this up here real quick as well. So Ryan Tannehill, the only problem with him is that he's on the same team with Derrick Henry, and it kind of offsets each other when they're on the same team. But he's going to see a little bit of, boost in his projection plus matchup. 2.4 DK point per dollar there. Gets a raw projection of around 23 DK points, which to me, that's probably about right. The thing that we love about Ryan Tannehill, though, is his save floor. We saw that last week. It was a Derrick Henry game, and he still was able to score 16 DK points. If you just throw Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry into your same build, I feel like we're locking in almost 40 DK points, if not more than that. So it does make a decent amount of sense to me to kind of do that. But that is a worry. Like, you don't want to obviously do that. That's not the most optimal approach. That's kind of like a safer approach, though. Ryan Tannehill does make a ton of sense, but got to go to Derrick Henry here. Derrick Henry, second best matchup on the slate, 7.8 to his average in the matchup against the Detroit Lions, and they struggled recently. We do like that. Derrick Henry, man, I don't know how we can not play him. He is only projected, raw projections, to get 22.2 DK points. That's more or less because he's had some random duds mixed in there. I would say that's going to be closer to 26, to be honest with you guys. He should absolutely be able to feast in this one. If he doesn't, it's going to be a little bit shocking to me because just in a great spot. Carries have been there, obviously. The only thing that really would affect him is if he gets injured, and we'll knock on wood here. Don't want that to happen, but he should be able to go off. And then we'll go back into the receivers for this game. AJ Brown in a great spot. Corey Davis I like as well. You can really make those work. Marvin Jones Jr. still going to be a quality play, I think, even with Matthew Stafford kind of being a little bit banged up with his thumb. We don't know exactly how much that's going to affect him. I would love to see DeAndre Swift involved a little bit more in the running game. I mean, what are they doing? I know he had a really bad concussion there. But for him to only get the ball 11 times last week, that was a mistake to me. He was still able to hit value, which kind of saved me in a couple of my builds last week. But really, I don't really get what the Lions are doing there. It doesn't make sense to me. Unfortunate, but next year he's going to be a great draft pick, season-long wise as well. What's interesting to me is Mohamed Sanu still min-priced. A guy that has seen his snaps go up each week. Now the targets, man, he had 2 targets in like the first drive, I think, last week, and then didn't see any. I was like, all right, great, this is working well. He's going to be able to hit value. And all I needed was like one more catch to be able to hit value. Hit that 2 X DK point per dollar. Now, I still think he can do that again today. 3K is very cheap. I don't mind Quintez Cephas. He was getting involved a little bit more snap-wise, but still kind of a pump play. I kind of see one of these guys going off and having a decent week. I kind of favor Danny Amendola at 4.2. It does make a decent amount of sense to me. I kind of see him getting a little bit more checkdowns. Obviously, if the Tennessee Titans do get up in this game, it could be a little bit more of a passing game for the Lions, which would favor Amendola. At that price point, I do like him a solid amount. TJ Hawkinson, 5.2 is a little bit too much for me to pay up for him. Obviously, though, he has been producing. I mean, you look at the targets there. If I was getting a receiver at this price point, I'd be locking it in. So to me, it's kind of surprising that I don't like him as much as I do, given the fact that he's a tight end. And for tight ends to be getting this amount of usage, this amount of targets, it does seem a little bit like a mistake. But for me, I do like to punt at tight end a ton. I hate wasting salary at tight end and at defense. And that's kind of why I'm going with Cole Kmet and someone like Tyler Conklin a little bit more today. But it does make sense with TJ Hawkinson. Defensively, I don't think we should go with the Lions. They are 2.2. I could see them going negative, and I kind of do see them going negative. Yeah, that's not something I really want to play. But Derrick Henry does kind of run the clock out a little bit with his legs, and that's kind of how I'm projecting this game to go. So I could see that happening where, 2 DK points. I really don't see any defense really going too negative. That's at that min price point. All right, Jays versus Baltimore, a decent one. So I teased Gardner Minshew a decent amount. We'll pull him up here. So Minshew does make a lot of sense. He does. He came in playing a half, scored 13 DK points. And if he gets me 13 DK points at 5.3, I'm still going to be pretty good with it. Obviously, that's not going to help you a ton. And his only other performance that he had that was worse than that was against the Miami Dolphins. That was kind of before people knew that they were a good defense. 11.2. He struggled. They still threw the ball 40 times in that. Heck, he's been throwing the ball a ton really this whole year. I was on pace to throw the ball 40 times in the Chargers game and then also in the Tennessee game. I like him a ton. 5.3 is very cheap for him. Baltimore is a middle of the road matchup. You really get some salary relief here. For me, it kind of makes a ton of sense. You just throw Gardner Minshew in there alone. You don't have to play James Robinson or anything like that. You don't have to play in the receivers. Although, what the heck is going on with DJ Chark? That's surprising to me. Wow. Huh. I thought we were going to get some great value here. That's some interesting news there. Did not see that come through last night. Marquise Brown is going to be active. That changes the slate a little bit. Willie Snead was almost going to be a lock for me, so that'll be a little bit of an update there. That's why I like to do this game-by-game breakdown. So I actually still don't mind Willie Snead at 4.3. I still think he's going to get right around 6 targets. Soft matchup. He could easily go off and get that 23 DK points like he did against New England. But I don't love him as much. Mark Andrews don't like as much now as well. That's interesting. That sucks. That really does. We're going to see a lot of targets for Willie Snead there. Running back wise, they're kind of just splitting the workload a little bit too much to really trust any of them. I think any of these guys could go off today, and I think one of them will. Heck, 2 of them could. But I just don't really exactly want to trust it. And I think you guys kind of get why. They're splitting the workload up a little bit too much. I want to get at least 20 carries or 20 touches around that. And I just can't project that for any of those guys. And Dobbins, sure, he has looked great, but it's a little bit too priced up for me to really trust that. Defensively, I don't really see the point of playing the Ravens at 3.8. And then, the Jags at the minimum price, I actually don't mind. I really don't. Haven't gone negative this whole year, and at the min price for a defense that's not going to go negative, I like that. It makes sense. All right. Got 2 more games in the early slate, which, just throwing it out there, I'm not going to be doing the late, the afternoon slate for myself. I'm not going to be entering that at all. 3 games, a little bit too small for me. I'd much rather do like more of showdown builds there. So I will be favoring a little bit more of the early slate because the majority of my builds have everyone in the early slate, unless I'm putting Alvin Kamara in there, or unless I'm putting like Jalen Hurts in there. That's really the only difference. Or Cam Akers, I guess, as well, but we'll get to that. In this game, no to the quarterbacks. Now, they are cheap, and they easily could both go for 20 DK points, and it really wouldn't shock any of us. Tua has been playing better as of recently. He had 30 DK points against the Chiefs. Cam Newton, he can get a rushing touchdown any day of the week, really, and I think with Damian Harris now out, that maybe we see Cam run a little bit more today. But I will say, Sony Michel did look pretty good. The few carries that he's gotten since being back. He's looked a little bit more quick. He's really took a step forward kind of this season. But obviously, Damian Harris is still a better running back. James White is pretty cheap now. He's most likely going to be active. I could see him getting a little bit more targets as well. The player I want to see get involved is J.J. Taylor, but he's questionable as well. I really want to see this guy get involved. And I'm hoping that kind of the next 2 weeks we'll get a little bit of J.J. Taylor at some cheap costs there, at min price there. Running back wise for the Finns, so annoying. Gaskin out, Ahmed there. We have to wait and see. Anyone have any news on this? I'm not seeing any on it just yet. I checked this morning before the live stream. At 4.7, if he was going to play, I think this would be a great pivot from Leonard Fournette because he's going to be the running back 1 if he does play. If he doesn't play, there's no reason to make him work. There's no reason to put him in there. Washington has been okay, not great. If he gets a touchdown, obviously you would really like that. That'd be right around 13 or 14 DK points. So, there's not bad value here. And these are okay pivots, I think, from a chalky Leonard Fournette. Obviously, I won't go crazy with that. I do like Leonard Fournette a decent amount, but it does make sense to pivot a little bit here with the running backs in this game. Receiver wise, I think Devonta Parker is expected to play. Yeah, looks good to play. And then Jakeem Grant, we're still kind of waiting on news on him, but he is not expected to play. So that does open up Lynn Bowden Jr. for a little bit of usage. He's been playing more and more snaps. Infamous hasn't seen anything on Ahmed there. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I wish we would just get a little bit more clarity. I know we have about a half an hour until lineup lock there, so obviously we'll get that here shortly. Lynn Bowden, I don't mind actually still has a value. Jakeem Grant is out. He's going to be playing there, but you can see Malcolm Perry getting a little bit more of that Jakeem Grant role as well. He's a, quick twitch guy. He can get open in the open field as well. It was a little bit surprising to me that his snaps have went down recently. He's a guy that saw 5 targets and then around 70% against the Denver Broncos, and then really hasn't played since, which to me was a little bit shocking. They kind of favored Lynn Bowden a little bit more. And also Mac Hollins there. Hollins saw 9 targets with Parker out yesterday or last week, so I think there is interesting value in there. I would say I would put Lynn Bowden Jr. in about 10% of my GPP builds. Just value-wise, it does make a decent amount of sense to me. I won't go anything more than that, though. To me, anything more than that's a little bit too much. Jacoby Myers, what is going on here? Guy was a stud. He was getting force-fed targets, and now Cam Newton just not doing it. Kind of unfortunate. 5, 6 targets. If you're doing a showdown build for this game, I would put him in there, but other than that, no reason to play him. On defense, I don't really want to play either of them. I will say the Patriots could do something here. They typically do play rookie quarterbacks extremely well. Obviously, Justin Herbert, they dominated him. They're just able to game plan against those young quarterbacks, and they did have 11 DK points against the Miami Dolphins in their first game. So I actually really don't mind the Patriots defense. Still don't like the price point. I think I'd much rather play the Seahawks defense there. It makes a little bit more sense to me. All right, let's get into the Niners versus the Dallas Cowboys here. Nick Mullins. Oh, man. Just annoying here. He's been throwing the ball a ton, and he's 5.1. And we know in the Niners offense that really there's at least 4 to 5 plays in every game plan where it's schemed correctly for the quarterback, and it's just whether or not they can make the throw. And he hasn't been able to do that. At 5.1 is interesting, but I don't want to trust that. The Dallas Cowboys have been better defensively recently, but it is a good matchup. The problem is he could get pulled for CJ Beathard, and I just don't want to trust that. I'd much rather go Gardner Minshew there. Running back wise, I believe Zeke is going to play. If he doesn't play, Tony Pollard becomes a very intriguing play as well. I know the Niners have been good defensively, but we'll know that Pollard will get 15 carries, a few targets there, and be a solid play there. At 5.2, it does make sense. I think I'd much rather favor. I guess I'd much rather favor Leonard Fournette, just given the price point wise, but it would make a lot of sense if it was Tony Pollard. Raheem Mostert, the big plays haven't been there for him. Big touchdown plays haven't been there for them like they were at the start of the season. You knew that regression was going to come, but it kind of came harder than I was expecting, to be honest with you guys. This offense has looked horrible. Receiver-wise, I'm pretty much locking in Brandon Ayuk. Targets have been there. Targets have been insane. The production has been insane, especially with Deebo Samuel out and George Kittle still out. It's going to be the Brandon Ayuk show there. 6.3, I still think that's too cheap. Name value-wise, if he was named Amari Cooper, I think he'd be 7K. He'd probably be closer to 8K. Zeke is inactive. That's interesting. So, Tony Pollard. Man. What do we do there? Let's see. I'm going to make a build real quick with Tony Pollard with that news, because that's interesting to me. Go Henry. Do you like Drew Brees today? I don't mind Drew Brees. Drew Brees today. I think he's fine at that price point. It does make sense. The only problem with it is I kind of see it being more of an Alvin Kamara game now, especially with Michael Thomas out. We saw Brees somewhat struggle there with out Michael Thomas, but I don't mind it. I think I'd much rather go like Hurts, who has a little bit more rushing upside, or try to pay up for someone a little bit more. But I'm perfectly good with Drew Brees. I can't talk you out of Drew Brees as a play. I'd prefer some other plays, but I get it. It's a good question. Could even get Calvin Ridley in here as well. I'll go Kamara. Just I'm starting to like Kamara more and more as the week has went on. Go Ayuk in this one. Just for now, I'll go Conklin. I don't know. Just throw him in there. Obviously, if we want to go up from him, we can. To Cole Kmet or someone, I don't know. Just kind of throwing something randomly together. You know, because you asked, I'll throw in Drew Brees in there. Let's see. Go Gage. 6.4 left over. Cooper, I don't know. Sure. Godwin, sure. I mean, you can really make it work with Tony Pollard here. Obviously, I think I'd just actually go. Don't want to force Godwin in there, so I'd go down from Godwin to maybe AB. Oh, I like that decent amount. And then you can get a better quarterback in there. Tannehill, Brady, or Tannehill. I mean, you can really make that work with Tony Pollard, so that's intriguing to me. That's very interesting. And heck, you could go Fournette and really pay up for the stud receivers as well. Really make that work. I mean, let's do it real quick. Oh, man. You can really make that work. That's very interesting to me with that Tony Pollard news. So I'm going to be putting him into my player pool. Probably around 20% around a mid-exposure play. It's going to be a solid play. But the matchup is, that's what makes it rough. Because the Niners are a good defense, especially against the run. So not a lock. Still a solid play. Let's finish up this game, though, real quick. So there's some value here receiver-wise. Michael Gallup, still very cheap, 3.5. For a guy that saw 6 targets again. You know, he had that big game against Baltimore, which I thought was going to really juice up his price for this week, and it didn't because he wasn't that productive against the Bengals. But the targets have been there, guys. I mean, 12, 7, 5, 8, 11, 6. That's great. And for 3.5, whew, that's tough to pass up on for me, in all honesty. I mean, he's one of the stronger value plays on the slate, just given the floor that he has, and then the upside that he can get as well. So to me, I don't really get that. I just don't. I thought he'd be like 4.3, which then you'd think about, but at that price point, it is a good price point. CD Lamb, been a little bit hit or miss recently, probably because, Michael Gallup's been getting a little bit more targets. So I'd much rather play Gallup than Lamb at that price point. Cooper, been very consistent. He's finally priced up, though, where I think we can start to fade him a little bit. But if he has a big week, not going to surprise anyone. Good matchup. Should be able to do, a decent amount. Tight end wise, I really thought that Jordan Reed would be a little bit more involved. 5 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets. Nothing really spectacular. Ross Dwelly, not doing that much either. So it's really just been the Ayuk show, really there. I could see someone like Kendrick Bourne doing something here. Had 7 targets last week, 6 targets the week before that. I could see him doing something in this one. Kendrick Bourne, Brandon Ayuk, you could kind of game stack this game a little bit if you wanted to. I think this is a sneaky game that you could stack. Mostert or Jeff Wilson, a good play. I'm not really favoring either of them. With Mostert, it's just been the big play hasn't been there for him. The touchdowns haven't been there for him recently. I would favor Mostert over him, over Jeff Wilson there. I don't know. Why pay Jeff Wilson, especially with the news with Tony Pollard right there, where we know Jeff Wilson's only probably going to get, 15 opportunities max, where Tony Pollard's floor with Zeke out, with that news that Zeke is out, is that Tony Pollard's floor for opportunities is going to be right around 15. So for me, much rather play like Tony Pollard there or play something like Leonard Fournette there. That's something that makes much more sense to me, especially like Raheem Mostert. I could see myself throwing him in 5% of GPPs or something like that, but I don't want to go crazy with that. To me, that's not the right move. Especially, we're going to get into this next game here. Cam Akers, 6.6. Now, this was kind of tough to unpack here. 29 carries and then 21. I mean, he's been getting more and more work over the last 3 games. He's looked great. He has. The Jets are, obviously, I don't think they're that bad of a defense. Really, to me, they do remind me of the Dolphins last year, where they weren't really getting credit for the good defense that they were playing because they're on the field too much, and obviously they're just outmatched. I think the Jets next year are going to be a strong defense, a little bit more than people would expect. I think they're going to kind of be the Miami Dolphins next year defensively. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what moves they make. The point is that they're playing better than a lot of people expect, and a lot of people give them credit for. So, Cam Akers, at 6.6, is still very cheap though, and that's kind of the point. The Rams are highly favored in this game, and with that, at 6.6 for Cam Akers, you would expect him to get right around at least 15 DK points. If he scores a touchdown, that could be 20, kind of like it was last week against the Patriots as well. So, I don't know. We can't exactly trust Sean McVay as well, but over the last 2 weeks, the opportunities have been there for Cam Akers. And to me, for GPPs, I like that a ton. You can still really make a lot work with Cam Akers if you're paying down for him. I still like that a decent amount. Other than that, running back wise, don't really want to go with anyone there. Receiver wise, don't really want to go with anyone too much, with the main fact that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are very priced up. Now, I do think you could easily do somewhat of a Rams game stack here if you really want to go crazy. You could game stack this and really just kind of lock in your points, knowing that they are going to kind of destroy the Jets. I shouldn't say no, but you could do that. I don't want to play Rams D, but it does make sense if you're doing a game stack. This is obviously one where you really think that they're going to blow them out, and then you kind of go from there. It's not bad, though. If we're doing game stacks, I actually don't mind Goff and Woods. They could have a huge week, and for this specific matchup, I could see them favoring the passing game a little bit more and having Goff and Kupp and Woods go off a little bit more than kind of the Cam Akers show. And I could see that happening today, and I kind of do see that happening today, which is my hesitation with Cam Akers. We'll see here. 2 more games left, and then if you guys have any questions, get those in. If not, I'm going to be wrapping up and then heading over to the 9 to 5 Sports page to be finishing up there. But before I close this out, I will be trying to do a quick lineup optimization build here, but it does take a little bit more time than like 3 minutes. It takes a little bit more time to build the lineups that you want to with the lineup builder, like 10 minutes. In this game, I don't mind Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts, though, if he's going to be running the ball even 5 times at this price point, I think he's too cheap. I think he's going to get right around 8 carries. I can see the Cardinals have some game film on him now, so they'll know how to game prep for him a little bit more, which could hinder his rushing upside a little bit more. And he has struggled throwing the ball. That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is that Hurts is a little bit better runner than Carson Wentz. So with Hurts running the ball a little bit more, that kind of opened up the offense a little bit more. Both of them are going to struggle passing. That's not the issue here. Well, that is the issue, but that's not going to get resolved. Maybe he gets a couple of deep balls for a touchdown. That would be nice. But at 5.9, he is still too cheap. Still going to be a solid play at that price point. No running backs that I like in this one. Obviously, any of these guys could make a big play. Kenny Drake could get a touchdown. I don't mind that. I do really like DeAndre Hopkins at 7.9. Targets have been there, but what's strange about him is that the big weeks haven't really been in there. It's been it's been a big week or it's been 11 points. And for me at that price point, 7.9, for either we're going to get 10 or we're going to get 25, I would much rather say that be a little bit more consistent for me to really trust paying up for that. But I don't mind it. I mean, still, double-digit DK points is never a bad thing. Other than that, nothing that I really trust too much in this game for receivers. It's unfortunate, kind of the receiver situation for the Eagles as well. They've just been spreading out a ton, trying to make Alshon Jeffrey work, where they probably should have developed Travis Fulgham a little bit more. Tight end wise, what surprised me is Zach Ertz got a little bit more involved in the passing game this week. Obviously, he is still one of the best tight ends in the league. Be interesting to see where he goes this offseason. And then KC versus the Saints. So get into this game a little bit more specifically. So let me pull up the quarterback cheat sheet here. I'll pull up Drew Brees. If I'm starting my builds with Henry and Kamara, who is your preferred third running back? For me, I would still favor Jonathan Taylor, and then I would still favor Leonard Fournette, be JT, Fournette, Akers, Pollard for me. But really, it is a lot closer. The only reason I like JT is that the matchup's there, and we've seen the outside more recently with him. Fournette, I do like his floor. I do worry about his upside, but easily he could go for 20 DK points. So, I mean, that is the right approach. It's just really kind of getting lucky with choosing the correct path there, because they're all priced at the correct price points, and they all should they all should hit their value at those price points as well. They're all solid plays. So I really do like that approach. That's the correct approach. Yeah, let me pull up Drew Brees here specifically. All right, so DK point per dollar, about 2.7. That's not bad. Projections, it's a push matchup. So he's projected to score right around 20 DK points. That's solid at this price point. We'll take that. And I do think he will hit that kind of mark there as well. Let me go to Alvin Kamara as well while we're here. I was really hoping Marquez Callaway would be there. Yeah, so I'm not exactly feeling the Tony Pollard like smash play. I think he's gonna be a great play, and obviously if he goes off, we're kind of gonna be kicking ourselves there. But he's not a smash play necessarily. He's a good play. He's a great play. The problem with it once again is that Cam Akers was right there. If he's gonna get 25 carries again in that matchup, very cheap. Leonard Fournette definitely too cheap now with Ronald Jones out, and then Jonathan Taylor just in a great matchup. So it's really deciding for you guys which one you want to go with after there. I'm feeling team Tom Brady today. Receivers too cheap. Easy to stack. Yeah, you can easily throw in a Tom Brady stack with really all three of them and just hope that all three or two of them really go off and the third one still hits value. But obviously, you can mix and match, two of the receivers with Tom Brady. That does make sense. And, if Fournette's going to be involved in the passing game a little bit, you can still make that work as well. So Alvin Kamara, wow. He really got phased out of the offense with Taysom Hill there, pretty much being a running back. Actually, that's mean to say because Taysom Hill did play well quarterback-wise too. The offense was flowing really effectively. I think Sean Payton did a great job with Hill there. Great job offensively there. So I don't want to take anything away from Hill. He did actually do really well. Really sucked though for Alvin Kamara. I still haven't projected to score like 24 DK points in this one. Obviously, we've seen what Alvin Kamara would do in this offense with Drew Brees at quarterback. I mean, Alvin Kamara was a stud throughout the start of the season with Drew Brees in there. And recently, Alvin Kamara has been productive as well. But still, I think we can lock in right around 20 DK points from Alvin Kamara today. And that's going to be enough for us. So I do really like Kamara there in this game. Don't want to go with any of the other running backs really. Receiver-wise, Tyreek Hill you can make work if you want to. Ahmed's active? Oh no, that actually makes the slate harder. Why'd you do that to us, Andrew? Why? Why'd you break that news, man? Oh gosh. All right, let me finish up this game and then I'll get to the Ahmed news here. Because that makes it more difficult. There's like 6 quality running back plays. Oh, that hurts because it's great. It's a good thing. It's just going to be a matter of getting lucky. Or not unlucky, I guess, there. Because we got some quality plays now. All right, so let me finish this one up here, and then I'll be getting out of here. Or I'll be doing the lineup builder and touching on the running backs there again. All right, so Sanders, I don't mind. Should see right around 7 targets. That's fine. I do really like Tre'Quan Smith, though, at 3.2. If you guys are trying to punt and really fit in the stud on the slate, Tre'Quan Smith makes a ton of sense. Probably is going to get right around those 6 targets I saw the last 2 weeks. The problem with Tre'Quan Smith is I don't really think he's all that talented. Where he hasn't played up to what he can. He's got a big body, and that's pretty much it. Still, though, getting 6 targets in Drew Brees' offense with the Saints, I like that. I like that. I mean, at 3.2, that's just way too cheap. Tight end-wise, Kelsey has been a stud. He has. Kind of the last 2 weeks now, I kind of realized I was being stupid by not doing Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kelsey stacks, which I'll do one of again today, just because it's been like, you're missing the boat if you haven't been doing at least one of those stacks and trying to fill in everywhere else. And obviously that really leaves you capped salary-wise, so it's not the most optimal approach, but if you do that, you've just been sitting pretty. Jared Cook, someone asked about earlier, I don't know, 3.4 to me, I'm fine with it. Like, he should get a little bit more targets, especially with MT out, but we didn't exactly see that earlier on in the season either. Really hasn't had a massive week as well, so I don't know, I don't really want to play Cook. I'd rather play Cole Kmet there or Irv Smith a little bit more for that upside. Then nothing that I like really here defensively as well. All right, so let's get into some of that news that broke. I'm just going to have the 9 to 5 dashboard up for now to talk about this. So let me pull up another screen here, actually. So Sullivan Ahmed is active, apparently. So let's just put it together. Actually, let me go into the lineup builder. That's what we'll do. We'll do the lineup builder page here. All right. So we'll just look at the running backs now. So if I'm talking about running backs that I want to be on, it's going to be Derrick Henry. It'd be a little bit of Dalvin Cook, a little bit, probably, 10% is all I want from Dalvin Cook. Kamara, I do like a ton. Jonathan Taylor, I like a ton. Cam Akers, a decent amount, although now with that Ahmed there news, that's going to be tough. Scroll down here. Where are they? So Tony Pollard, Sullivan Ahmed, under Fournette. Then am I missing someone? I don't think I'm missing anyone. No, we got it. So yeah, this is kind of going to be the approach today. It's really trying to get this right. Now, just on the lineup builder, just want to tell you guys, this is their DK average so far. So for Cam Akers, I would move his projection up to like 15 DK points. You could do that. That's going to force him into a little bit more builds. Tony Pollard, obviously, with Zeke out, I would still say like 12 DK points. Actually, let's go with like 13. Make that work. Ahmed there, I really like. I'm going to give him a little bit of DK boost. 11. Yeah, that's about right. Just once again, the RB1 for the Miami Dolphins running backs has been a top 10 running back throughout the year. Now that has almost went away recently with Washington, Breida kind of struggling, but it's still there. Leonard Fournette, I actually think that projection is pretty much correct. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking at there. I'm just going to run a quick build here. Obviously, I don't have any of the other players going. I just want to see what it gives me just with those 6 running backs right now. We'll probably bring in a quarterback that's inactive, though, because I haven't changed anything there. Let me hit the generate button. Because I haven't told it what other information I want in there, but let's just see what it gives us. So right now, not bad. So obviously, Richard Rodgers, I would put Tyler Conklin in there instead. Chad Henson, I would take him out. Put Russell Gage in there, and I don't know. Well, we can change this a little bit. That's easy. So it'd be Seattle defense, Tyler Conklin, not Travis Kelce at flex. That's just stupid. That's why I need to tell it what else to do here. But let's just look at what it gave us running back wise, usage wise here. Gave us Alvin Kamara 100%. Wow. That's something I wouldn't want to do. Derrick Henry 5%. Just that is current average. So let's change that a little bit here. So let me change their averages because I do think Derrick Henry is more looking like 27 or so. Alvin Kamara, I do like that. Jonathan Taylor will give him around 20%. Let's play around with this a little bit as well because I do want like at least 50 of Derrick Henry. Put in at least 30. At least 30. And right now, once again, I'm just specifically trying to kind of gauge what the optimizer would be telling us is kind of the right approach here, running back wise. Obviously, you can mess around with it a lot more than just what I'm doing. This is just quick for the video. And I will be doing a separate video on how to use the lineup optimizer here as well. Maybe tonight. You guys can play around with it. This is a beta program, so we'll be getting better probably in the next, 4 months or so for next season for NFL specifically, but we'll be available for PGA and NBA as well. So let's see what it gave us ownership-wise now. Yeah, Chad Henson, he's not going to be in the player pool, but Alvin Kamara, 85%. So definitely boosted them up a decent amount. So I actually kind of agree with that approach, but let's see which running backs on the value side they gave us the most of. It's actually Tony Pollard's looking like, and then, they're all about the same. So that is actually kind of how I want to see this work. Obviously, I'll mess around with the lineup builder a little bit more here, but I would say this is correct. Maybe we boost up Leonard Fournette a little bit more just because he was going to be chalky, and I do think that is correct, but I would say maybe 25% Fournette, So you can adjust that a little bit more. Tony Pollard probably, I would say 15% for him and Cam Akers is correct. You got to factor that in somewhat. Ahmed there. Maybe I drop that down to 10% because I really think he's just a strong pivot from Fournette rather than kind of the go-to. But it does make a ton of sense here. Man, you guys want me to take this a little bit further with quarterbacks, or should I be getting out of here? Because we got 3 minutes left here. Can take some questions. If not, I'll be getting out of here. Do really like this tool. I will be having, there's going to be a comment box in here that I'm going to be adding in here because this is a beta. So we're going to want your guys' input on what you guys would like to see. Not necessarily like corrections, but what more would you like to see it do, I guess, is going to be kind of the approach. So there'll be a little comment box, probably on the right-hand side, a small one, for you 9 to 5 users to leave your comments in there, kind of how you guys like it, if it's like working well for you guys, or kind of what improvements you'd like to see. Once I give you guys an explanation, you'll be able to use it pretty well as well. Then Bowden, I like him a ton. Wow, 2 questions about Lynn Bowden. That's pretty surprising. So let me pull him up here. Well, give me a second. I clicked out of the DraftKings tab, so give me a second. Boom. So yeah, Lynn Bowden. Do like Gage, I like. So yeah, Gage I'd rather go with than Emmanuel Sanders there for sure. Lynn Bowden I still do like, but I don't know if we necessarily have to like really go for him. Let me just double check to make sure we got that Jakeem Grant news. Did we get it yet? He's inactive, so that's great. Oh man, so Devonta Parker is inactive. So that's the only part with doing the live streams. I don't get the news until like right after. Oh man, that's huge. So yeah, Lynn Bowden there, guys. Wow. Yeah, he's gonna be a strong value play. He's my favorite value play now, just at that price point. Obviously, we'll have to check and make sure that he's going to be kind of the go-to receiver. Just I'm going to be looking at some beat reporters prior to lock. Actually, let me just look that up real quick here. Because Lynn Bowden, I like a ton. He's looked good. It was a little bit surprising to see them kind of force him into the offense, but they did. And I actually don't mind Matt Collins now as well. Man, that's huge. That's some huge news. Yeah, it's just, that's going to be tough to pass up on. So even with like 4 targets, he's still able to get 9.2 DK points. So that makes a ton of sense to me. That's going to open a lot of the player pool there. I'd prefer him over Michael Gallup. I'd prefer him over Sanu, obviously. He's by far the best value now on the slate. He's pretty much the receiver number 1 right now. That's great. Tre'Quan Swift and Lynn Bowden. That's the real question. There is, which one do you prefer? Right now I'm preferring Bowden. I would go Bowden, Smith, Hollins for kind of my favorite values, and then Gallup in there as well. Gallup's still gonna be a good play. So Gesicki's out as well, so yeah, that should just mean a lot more targets. That makes Ahmed there a little bit more interesting as well, because he should be getting used in the passing game more and more as well. Let's see, Mike Gesicki news. He's inactive. Wow, the Dolphins coming up big. I mean, obviously the Patriots defense does get a boost now as well. So you could play the Pats D instead of the Seahawks if that's the approach you want to go with. Yeah, I don't really see the point of playing any of these other Miami tight ends. They're a little bit priced up, but man, that's great. It really makes you guys be able to do whatever you want lineup wise. So I'm just gonna put the top dollars in here and then my favorite values, just to show a quick studs and duds build. Obviously, I'll do the final build on the 9 to 5 page here shortly. So just looking at my favorite values at each position, just like that, then you could really just boom. Let's see. Still Ayuk, because everyone knows I love him. I don't know. What would we do here? Tre'Quan Smith. That's fine. I'd probably change it a little bit here so I could fit. I don't know. Let's go Kamara instead of Cook. Then you could easily fit a solid flex in there. I mean, this is Pollard. This is Ahmad. That works out well. So yeah, this slate just got a little bit more interesting than what it was looking like about 15 minutes ago. So, all right, I'm going to be heading out here, guys. It is past 11, so we'll be making the updates on the 9 to 5 sports page hope you guys have a good week this week. We'll be doing a little bit more updates on the 9-5 page as well. Just real quick, I'll pull that up. So this lineup builder that I got right here, that's going to be there for golf, and then it will be there for NBA as well. This is something that automatically updates, so you get all the slates in there as well, which is really nice. Obviously, for showdown slates, I really prefer this because this is the main reason why I want to use it, because there's been a few times where even like last night yesterday afternoon with the Bills, like Dawson Knox was really cheap, and he was a player that was on a decent amount just because of the price point. He obviously had a good day yesterday, and that really helped me have some really solid lineups where a lot of people weren't on them. So you can really use this to take advantage of really value plays and then mix and match the quality plays on a showdown slate in there. So I'm really looking forward to getting into a deeper dive with this for you guys on the 9-5 Sports page. Once again, NBA, I think I'll keep that free for anyone that's a 9-5 member for football and golf, because when golf comes around, obviously everyone knows that's kind of the 9-5 bread and butter. Football is great. I love football as well. You know, those two kind of coincide with each other schedule-wise. This year it's been a little bit different, so it's like football and golf. And then NBA I love. NBA is great, so I will be trying to get content out there for everyone as well. But that'll most likely be free because I can't commit to it, 5 days out of the week. But this optimizer, that'll be there for you guys. It'll automatically upload the data, and you guys can kind of mix and match it. So I'm excited to get that out to you guys. All right, we're out of here, guys. I'm going to head over to the 9-5 page, make those updates, and as always, guys, let's keep cashing. Gotta do the cool end screen here because I'm a little excited for it. I think it's a decent end